Welcome to Marin Poets Live. I'm Neshama Franklin. I work at the Fairfax Library and I love poetry. After this program airs on TV, it will appear on the Marin Free Library website as a part of a digital archive, which also features biographies of the poets and links to our collection. For this month's program, we will feature Joan Baranow. Welcome, Joan Baranow. And as we do, we plunge right into Marin, because that's where we live.
Well, I'd be happy to read a poem.
Good, that's
Marin.
the idea.
All right. So this poem is called Harbor Seals. And I wrote it after my first time going out to look at them along our coastline, so-called seals. They lay along the wet strand that stretched like a lip across the river's mouth, packed like overgrown banana slugs, or 100 heavy waves held still. We stood together with a few others who had locked their cars and trudged out here to look at seals, as if something might be learned from them. Up close, they had the friendly faces of fat Labrador retrievers. They snoozed and twitched like that, would lift a lazy fin to scratch the itch of salt drying on their skin, then sleep as warmly as a pack of tired pups before a fire, though Pacific winds whittled at the blanket wrapped around us. And that was it. A few swam upstream to search out better sun or more serene companions. One by one, they took a look at us, milling behind the danger line like a row of swaying posts or upright sharks.
I know those harbor seals, and you have them in absolute essence. And I love the kind of trudging, earnest quality of the people. And they just don't tell you what you want them to tell you. They tell you something else. So wonderfully sluggish.
It was years after I wrote this, I was reading Gary Snyder's The Practice of the Wild. And he points out something that is so obvious, but we never think of, which is when we are walking in nature, observing nature, nature is observing us too.
Yes, very good one. Right, the constant back and forth, which is the poet's territory.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Another poem, please.
All right. So this also is about observing nature and how that leads to the creation of art. It's called Ripe Plums. They've come for the plums fallen on the concrete path behind the house. Mid-June, the plums small and sweet, so ripe they've split, the deer cannot get enough. I come to the door, step outside, and even then they don't back away, but stare at me, their jaws working hard. Once a fawn would have sniffed my neck, but the doe leapt between us, struck the air with her hoof. And that was all right. Later, after they climbed the hill, I find the ground littered with the clean yellow pits of plums, and that pleases me, the way a chef enjoys seeing crumbs left on a china plate. Here's where the deer sleep, where we can look upon them from our bedroom. I know they are full of fleas and ticks, that few of the fawns survive. Yet wasn't it the mere curve of a hind leg, the swell of flank tapering to those impossibly narrow legs that first impressed us? Someone in love with muscle and fur, with the tentative energy of deer, felt in his hands a correspondent art. What does it matter if beauty walks in the woods or dwells only in the neural channels of the mind? Think what you wish, the world will still display its tameless and endlessly describable stuff. Open the door. The deer are sure to come back.
Yeah, I love the come in there. And there's a wonderful, slightly obscure word, impressa or something like that in there, that I heard.
I'm not sure. That felt.
But we'll let it go.
Okay.
Okay. I love it when there's a word that I don't know.
I grew up on the East Coast.
Ah.
And so, although I lived in Marin longer than I lived anywhere else, and so when I first came here, I couldn't believe how close the deer would come. And because on the East Coast, you don't get within a mile of a deer.
Right. Pow, pow, pow.
Right, exactly. So I was really taken with the intimacy of being close to them.
Yes, yes. And I had no idea they could spit out the pits. It must not be good for their digestive system.
I don't know which way it goes.
True, true. Okay. Another poem, please. So what's next?
I'd like to read 2 poems about breast cancer. I know so many women are dealing with that, especially in Marin, so I thought that our viewers would connect with these. The first one's called Consultation Before Surgery. With her finger touching the pink and purple diagram, she explains dye will flow through milk ducts to the sentinel lymph nodes, making tracer stains where the scalpel must go. She doesn't need to say that cells are pawns of nature's lunatic changes, that no one's guilty, nor that years nuzzling those little packages wrapped in baby blankets failed to protect the breast. Something in you opened, your cup runneth over and emptied. We're here now, she says, whatever the past was. Get dressed, don't fret. And so you comb through her brisk words and find she's right. Death backs off, while inside, seething, voracious cells keep eating estrogen, growing fat from your bruised but still intact breast.
Boy, that's so interior and so scientific at the same time, and so much bigger than that. And that whole business of self-blame is so complicated.
Well, it's inevitable that people, probably with any illness, you think back, what did I do? Did I do something wrong? And the thing is, you just
it's the lunacy of nature.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. And so that was early on, after getting the news, and this poem is later in the process, and it's called Lumpectomy. The moon is a little dented tonight on the right side, where an arm would be pressing. And that's natural to the moon, as well as certain situations. A word gets slivered off, a cup chips its lip, and accidents like standing up into a harder substance than your head. Soon, though, the moon regains her whole. There's repair to blood and hair, where force asserted its fact, and bone builds within its cracks denser deposits. Every form exhibits the seams of what was torn or taken or lost. Lovely the life left with its stitches. Even this night, tucked between granite peaks, receives from a surface slightly skewed, a bruised yet no less emphatic radiance.
How long between when you had it and you wrote it? How long did it need to settle through you?
Well, you might be surprised because when I had the diagnosis, I had planned to attend a writer's workshop, a week-long writer's workshop, and I said, can I wait before I do anything about this, because I need to write some poems. And so actually these poems were written during that week before the surgery.
Yes, well, they're very yeasty, very present.
Oh, thank you. And I'm married to a doctor who's also a poet and a writer, and so at home I have this sort of automatic built-in connection to the medical world, and we do some work together about poetry and medicine. And I love the language. I love the mix of sort of poetic metaphor with more, that sort of scientific medical language.
Right, it all works. I believe. Let's have another poem.
Well, this poem is about transformation. When people talk about reincarnation, I feel like they're just not letting their imagination go. So this is called Maybe in the Next Life. You'll slip into the ocean's inky dungeons, reborn as a 2-ton squid. Or reappear as that same mosquito you squashed while hiking through New Jersey's pine barrens. You'll feel your soul squeeze itself into Rush Limbaugh's manic descendant, a baseball cap distributor for the Northeast coast, a man who fled home only to find himself pawning the slim silver necklace his grandmother had given him. You might be snow packed into a girl's acrylic mitten, or a taste bud as she licks the snow. You may wince while clipped from the dictator's mustache, or shine in the small jar of polish his wife likes. If asked, I choose something simple, more mute than my present incarnation. To return as a wild strip of loosestrife I glimpsed once while riding up front in a truck, or else a June bug stuck to a screen, mating. I'd like to try being a breeze that touches the hot cheeks of a bawling infant, to enter her lungs and cool the cramped muscle of her heart. Think of it, someday your flesh will feed stink bug and jewelweed. May your spirit tumble in the moist tower of a troublesome thunder shower.
Wow, that's the gamut. From the tiny to the, well, there's not that much huge in there. That's interesting. There's tiny and there's kind of dark with the dictator and the sadness of the man. But stuff I would never have thought of as incarnation material, and really delightful.
Could be anything.
Exactly, exactly. And all those tiny moments feed the poetic soul. If you're open to them.
A friend of mine just recently was telling me that dark matter they're discovering is packed full of networks that look like neural channels in the mind. It's very exciting.
Right, and you have a kind of like radio frequency to pick those up. So let's have more.
All right. One of the things I like to do also is taking folk tales, familiar stories, and then rewriting them from a new point of view. So this is one of them. It's called The Visit. I see the windows unlatched again. The philodendron she gave me is glum. The dream I'd been saving, what was it? Moths masquerading as lacy lingerie. My mother spitting molars into a drum, slips from beneath my lids and dissolves into the room's dank breath. She comes in then, unfolding the compartments of her basket. Bread, butter, a plastic knife. She still won't trust me after that last pathetic swipe. Jars of jam inked in her mother's loopy hand. Her red wool hat is steamy. Rain? Once again she fools me. She's her daddy's daughter, small tense fingers quick to tie things up. I like the way she's whittled her nose into new angles. I'd eat if I could remember how, and it's difficult when the sheet tucks so tightly under my chin. It's been weeks since I saw my feet, though I trust they're there, faithful as spring allergies. She smears a torn piece of bread and bites. Hungry? Yes. She's tramped through 3 miles of woods, past what I can't forget. Salamanders, lady slippers, quail, past the ghost wolf rumored to haunt the hydrangeas outside my house. I'd be on my own but for her mercy visits. On days when light strikes the ceiling, I watch the spiders spin. Oh, if you could see my garden. Foxglove, primrose, dahlias lush as strawberry cream. The year the peonies came back, I touched his rough fur. But that's as far away as a dream. They hung his body from a myrtle branch. Come on, Grandma, wake up, she says. Eat.
Whoa, that is a good one and quite fascinating. And all that dream imagery that's so familiar, you know, all the misses and the mess-ups, you know, that tumble into our dreams. But who would have thunk that she would be so fluid and expressive lying in her almost coffin-like bed?
Yes.
And you know, you never think of Granny. You always think of that wolf. So
Right.
that's beautiful.
I like turning the tables.
You certainly do. And that's great. What's underneath the table? We have about 6 minutes. I'm just giving you warning.
All right.
So
Thank you.
it's time for what you want.
So I thought I'd read a couple of family poems.
Good.
I have 2 sons, and they're getting fairly grown up now. So this remembers back when they were young, and we'd have to go on outings to get out of the house. And so this is called Beautiful. At the pet store, no rabbits, but plenty of mice spinning inside what my son calls Ferris wheels. He strokes the glass cages and feels fur at the trembling of miniature hearts. Next, fish. Here too, he swipes the smooth aquariums, sees goldfish back off. "Mommy, sit right here," he orders, smacking the floor, then snags another pretzel from his bag. An indoor outing today, the sky iffy, Richardson Bay so gray it looks smeared with dirt. This morning, raking leaves, I hear his voice, a few words warbling. "What?" I ask, shoving the leaves. "So beautiful," he says, pointing at trees. Beautiful.
I love the indoor outing. Yes, and again, it's so rooted in very familiar material to all of us, taken many steps further. So another one with family.
Well, this one is somewhat humorous, and it sort of fast forwards to 10th grade. And it's called 10th grade science, and it's doesn't need any explanation. My son's assignment is to make a model of DNA. It must be sturdy, accurate, and labeled correctly. As he reminds me, cytosine, thymine, guanine, adenine. His teacher will keep the best and the worst to show students what and what not to do. I imagine dowel sticks, ping pong balls, hangers unbent at awkward angles, screws and glue. Yet how to capture deoxyribonucleic acid's frantic action, a sinuous axe splitting while doubling, as in the swish of Disney's sorcerer's broom. Oh, impatient cells, oh, undeterred division, no one may dissuade your intelligent replications. Helpless and intent, you make leaf mold, lunar moth, psoriasis, bone, blood, apple blight, and puckered lips. You are the main ingredient, the comfort food, angel cake, meat of the nut, our pungent blastocyst, whole wheat yeasty science experiment, our baking soda and vinegar volcano, or on other days, Mentos and Diet Pepsi.
Oh, yes. Yes, I recognize all those things, and it's just great. We have 3 minutes left. A 3-minute poem, perhaps, or a couple short ones?
I think a couple of short ones.
Good.
All right, so this one, continuing with the idea of science, it's called Looking Ahead, and there's an epigraph from my 11th grade physics book, which I really liked, and I still have it. And the epigraph is, energy may take various forms, but there is never any net gain or net loss. If such could be, energy never lost, let me be the cool drop your tongue finds at midday, digging weeds from our poor hillside garden. I'd hide as a doorstop or bottle cap, crescent of soap sudsing your shaving dish. Better yet, I'd feel both your hands holding me as you roll out biscuit dough. Let some strand of my hair latch onto your ear, or find me nested in the soft pocket of your pants. I may be the mouse you curse, strewing crackers behind the stove, an alpine cloud shadowing your view, an ice cube watering your drink. I may be the last pinch of salt in your aunt's glass cellar, enough to savor your beef stew. And if you should likewise be rearranged, no longer cinched by these familiar cells, let us rove as beetles by the pond. You know the one, our antennae touching lightly as we pass.
Yes, well, there's such a theme that runs through your work, which is the tiny, which is so important. You know, the stuff we don't pay attention to, but that's the poet's job, to bring it to us. 1 minute poem.
A 1 minute poem.
Yes.
Well, this is called Light Climber. And it's for my other son. A tree, naturally, and concrete steps, rails, curbs, chain link, cement risers that run along stairs. He lifts against gravity, muscles full of flight. How does light climb the tree, Mommy? As you do, swinging its own weight up, though what do I know about light, except through you, rising branch by branch, beyond worry and warning, as carefree as the dead who can't hear us when we call.
But we can hear you when you call. Thank you so much, Joan Baranow.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure.